Ellie's heart pounded against her ribs, each beat a frantic drum in the labyrinth of mirrors that twisted and turned beyond reason. She stood at a junction where corridors reflected infinitely, each mirror distorting her image into grotesque and uncanny forms. She swallowed hard, her wide eyes darting from one reflection to the next, searching for any hint of direction or danger. A shiver ran down her spine as the faintest flicker caught her attention. There, just beyond the fractured glass ahead, a pale figure emerged almost translucent, like a wisp of smoke given shape. Mara, the ghostly presence that had appeared before, her sorrowful eyes filled with an unspoken plea, was back. Ellie exhaled, a mix of relief and disbelief flooding her. "Ellie," Mara whispered, her voice barely more than a breath, yet it carried through the stillness like a lifeline. "The maze shifts. Trust your instincts, but heed my warnings." Ellie nodded, her fingers brushing the cold surface of a mirror as if grounding herself in reality. "How do I know I can trust you?" Mara's gaze held steady, shimmering with a fragile vulnerability. "Because I want to help. Because I was once like you, trapped, afraid, desperate." The maze seemed to pulse around them, the walls twisting and reflecting shadows that danced like sinister wraiths. Mara glided forward, her form flickering as she pointed down a corridor where the glass glowed faintly with an eerie luminescence. "This way, watch the floor." Trusting Mara's guidance, Ellie followed, each step measured and cautious. Suddenly, the ground beneath her cracked with a sharp snap. The illusion of solid floor shattered as jagged shards of glass erupted in a deadly cascade. She leaped back just in time, heart hammering wildly. "Thank you," Ellie whispered, breathless. Mara's ghostly form hovered beside her, eyes full of sadness. "There are more traps ahead. The clown controls this place. He feeds on fear, but you must not let it consume you." As they pressed deeper into the maze, mirrors reflected scenes from Ellie's past, fractured memories of laughter and loss, of the grandfather who had vanished within these very walls. Mara's presence was a beacon amid the distorted realities, offering cryptic clues and warnings that kept Ellie one step ahead of the funhouse's deadly snares. In a chamber dimly lit by the sickly glow of fractured glass, Mara's figure paused. Her eyes met Ellie's, a silent communion of shared pain and hope. "You must be strong," she said softly. "The clown's shadow looms closer. But remember, you carry light within you." Before Ellie could respond, Mara's form began to waver, fading into the swirling reflections that filled the room. The haunting laughter of the clown echoed through the halls, a chilling reminder that the malevolent force was ever near. Ellie steadied her breath, clutching Mara's last words like a talisman. Alone once more, she stepped forward into the darkness, determination hardening within her. The path ahead was perilous, but with the fragile alliance forged in the mirror's depths, she would face the encroaching nightmare head-on. The maze shifted around her, mirrors fracturing and reforming in impossible geometries. Every reflection was a challenge, every step a test of will. Yet Ellie moved onward, her eyes scanning for the next sign, the next clue, the next glimmer of hope that Mara's guidance had kindled. Somewhere in the distance, the clown's twisted smile gleamed through a cracked mirror, his hollow eyes fixed on her with malevolent hunger. Ellie's pulse quickened, but she did not falter. She was no longer just a frightened girl lost in a funhouse. She was a survivor, armed with knowledge, courage, and a whisper of hope. Ahead, the maze beckoned with its shifting realities and lurking horrors. But Ellie was ready. The battle for her soul, for her sanity, for the truth was just beginning, and she would not back down. The mirrors here were different, fractured, jagged, their surfaces cracked like spider webs, spun by some malevolent spider. I hesitated, the faint light flickering overhead, casting long, uneasy shadows that danced across the warped reflections. My own reflection stared back at me, but it was no longer the steady, cautious gaze of a 16-year-old girl. Instead, the glass twisted my image, morphing it into a frightened child, the younger version of me, who had once huddled beneath my grandfather's soft, reassuring smile. Tears welled in my eyes before I could stop them. The mirror whispered, the faintest voices swirling around me like the rustling of dead leaves. I could hear them, fragments of memories, long buried, echoes of loneliness and abandonment that I had tried so hard to forget. I felt myself trembling, the weight of those memories threatening to crush me. I wanted to turn away, to escape the pain, but something deeper anchored me in place. From the corner of my eye, a faint shimmer caught my attention. Mara's ghostly form appeared, pale and translucent, her sorrowful eyes meeting mine with quiet understanding. She drifted closer, her ethereal voice barely more than a whisper. "You don't have to run from it, Ellie. The pain is part of you, but it doesn't have to be your prison." I swallowed hard, my voice trembling. How do I keep going when it feels like I'm drowning in it? Mara reached out, a soft glow emanating from her fingertips as she brushed the air near my cheek. By embracing it, by knowing you are not alone, even in the darkest reflections. The mirrors around me pulsed and fractured further, revealing fleeting images. My grandfather's tired eyes, the night he vanished. The carnival rides rusted and silent, the echoes of laughter that once filled the park now twisted into mocking screams. The scent of stale popcorn and rust filled the air, mingling with the cold chill that seeped into my bones. It was a haunting nostalgia, one that wrapped around my heart like a vice. I felt the urge to scream, to run away from this place and never look back. But Mara's presence steadied me. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the largest cracked mirror. My fingers reached out hesitantly, trembling as they brushed against the cold, hard surface. The glass beneath my touch was icy at first, but then warmed, a surge of heat spreading through my palm and up my arm. It was as if the mirror itself recognized my pain and offered a fragile comfort. In that moment, I understood. I couldn't hide from the shadows of my past. They were part of me, woven into the fabric of who I was. But I could choose how to face them. I could choose to be stronger. "I'm not afraid," I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. "Not anymore." Mara smiled faintly, her form shimmering with renewed light. "Then you're ready. The path ahead will be harder, but you won't walk it alone." A sudden crack echoed through the chamber as one of the mirrors splintered, shards falling like raindrops to the floor. The reflection of the clown flickered in the broken glass, a cruel grin stretched across his cracked porcelain face. A chill ran down my spine, but I stood my ground. The memories, the fears, the loneliness, they were no longer chains, but fuel for my fight. With a steadying breath, I turned away from the fractured reflections and moved deeper into the funhouse maze. Each step was heavier than the last, but each step was a testament to my resolve. The distorted memories tried to claw back at me, but I pushed forward, guided by Mara's light and the fragile strength growing within me. The funhouse was no longer just a place of fear. It was a crucible, shaping me into someone who could face the darkness and survive. And survive I would. The echoes of shattered memories faded behind me, replaced by the cold, relentless pulse of the mirrors ahead. Somewhere in that maze, the clown waited, his laughter a sinister melody threading through the air. But I was no longer the frightened girl reflected in the broken glass. I was Ellie Morgan, curious, brave, haunted but unbroken. and I was coming for him. The path was dark, the reflections unkind, but my heart burned with a fierce light. The nightmare was far from over, but I was ready to fight. The shattered memories had broken me, yes, but they also made me whole in a way I never thought possible. And with that, I stepped forward into the unknown, toward the heart of the funhouse and the final reckoning that awaited. The mirror maze swallowed me whole, but I was not lost. Not yet. Its surface shimmered unnaturally, rippling like disturbed water, and I sensed it was no ordinary glass, but a portal to something beyond. I hesitated, my breath shallow, then reached out with trembling fingers. The moment my skin brushed the mirror, the world around me dissolved. The faint creaks of the dilapidated funhouse faded, replaced by the vibrant sounds of a bustling carnival. Bright lights dazzled my eyes, and the scent of popcorn and cotton candy filled the air. I blinked, and there he was, a clown, radiant under the spotlight. His painted smile wide and inviting as children clapped and laughed. He was nothing like the grotesque figure that haunted the mirrors now. His costume was a kaleidoscope of cheerful colors, emerald greens, ruby reds, and golden yellows. His porcelain face was flawless, the cracks nowhere in sight. Laughter bubbled up in me, a fleeting warmth amidst the cold despair that had enveloped this place. I could almost hear the joy in the crowd, the carefree innocence of a time long past. But as quickly as it appeared, the scene twisted. The vibrant colors bled into shadows, and the laughter warped into frantic screams. The crowd scattered, panic rippling through the once happy carnival. Thick smoke billowed from a nearby ride, choking the air with acrid stench. I watched in helpless horror as the clown stumbled, a scream tearing from his throat. His porcelain mask cracked, splintering like shattered ice, exposing a face contorted in pain and disbelief. Flames licked at his feet, the echoes of the accident reverberating through the carnival's heart. Time seemed to freeze on that moment, the tragic end of a beloved performer's life and the birth of something far darker. My heart pounded, a mix of shock and a deep aching sorrow washing over me. The clown I had feared was not born from malice, but forged from tragedy. The malevolent force that now stalked these halls was a twisted reflection of loss and despair. Trapped and corrupted by the very mirrors that once reflected joy. Suddenly, a soft voice whispered at my side. Turning, I saw Mara's pale, translucent form flickering like a candle in the darkness. Her long hair flowed gently, and her sorrowful eyes met mine with a tenderness that pierced through the dread. He was once human, she murmured, a soul consumed by grief and bound by the curse of the park. His pain feeds the mirrors, traps the lost, but he is not beyond reach. Her words echoed in my mind as the funhouse seemed to pulse around us. The boundaries between past and present blurred. The walls warped, distorting the space until I was caught between realities. The clown's presence surged, a tempest of shadow and rage that threatened to swallow me whole. I met his hollow gaze in the mirror's depths, seeing not just the reflection of my fear, but a loneliness so profound it threatened to unravel me. His twisted smile faltered for a fleeting moment, revealing a flicker of the man he once was. Breathing deeply, I steadied myself. This revelation was more than a chilling story, was the key. Understanding his origin, the source of his torment, might be the weapon I needed to fight back. The funhouse moaned and creaked as if alive, the mirrors shuddering violently. The clown's laughter echoed, dark and menacing, but beneath it lay a fragile thread of sorrow. I whispered to myself, "You were once human, and I will find a way to free you." But even as I spoke, a cold certainty settled over me, This battle was far from over, and the darkness born from tragedy still held many secrets yet to be uncovered. The fractured reflections around me shimmered, beckoning me deeper into the labyrinth. My resolve hardened. I would face whatever horrors awaited. For in the tragic origin of the clown lay the hope of breaking the curse. I turned away from the mirror shard, the echoes of that haunting vision lingering in my mind like a shadow that would not fade. The journey was only beginning, and the cost was yet unknown. A sudden chill swept through the funhouse corridors as I pressed forward, every step resonating with the weight of the past and the promise of a reckoning to come. "You cannot run from your reflection," the clown's voice whispered through the glass, cold and mocking. "I am the shadow of your fears, the echo of your bloodline." I swallowed down my fear, my voice steady. "And I am the light that will shatter the glass." But even as I spoke, I knew the mirror's depths held more horrors yet, and the funhouse waited patiently to trap me forever within its shattered realities. I hesitated at the threshold of a corridor lined with shattered mirrors, their jagged edges catching the weak light and throwing it back in fractured shards. The distorted laughter echoed a faint warped sound that sent shivers crawling down my spine. It was the clown's signature, the cruel mockery of innocence twisted into something sinister. Every step I took felt like crossing a line between the real and the unreal, the stable and the volatile. The mirrors on either side of me flickered, sometimes showing my reflection, sometimes revealing twisted versions of myself, faces contorted with fear, anger, and despair. The ground beneath trembled slightly, as if the funhouse itself was breathing, alive and aware of my presence. A sudden gust of stale, cold air swept through the corridor, carrying with it whispers that threaded through my mind. "You're not strong enough," they hissed. "You belong here, with us." My heart hammered in my chest, but I forced my legs to move forward. I had come too far to let this place consume me without a fight. The diary in my pocket felt like a lifeline, its worn pages a tether to the truth and to Grandpa's memory. Then the illusions intensified. From the depths of the mirrors, figures began to emerge. At first, they were shadowy and indistinct, but soon they took shape doppelgangers of me, each one embodying a childhood fear I had long buried. One wore a twisted grin that mimicked the clown's smile. Another wept tears of blood. A third reached out with hands that suddenly grew claws. They circled me, whispering accusations and fears I had tried to forget. "You're alone, you're weak, you'll never escape." Panic surged, threatening to overwhelm my senses. The corridors seemed to shrink, the walls closing in, the laughter growing louder, more mocking. My breath came in ragged gasps as I struggled to hold on to myself. Ellie, a soft, ethereal voice, cut through the cacophony. I turned, and there she was, Mara, her translucent form glowing faintly in the gloom. Her sorrowful eyes met mine, and for a moment the storm of madness abated. "You're stronger than this place," Mara whispered. "Remember who you are. Remember Grandpa's words." Her presence was a fragile beacon in the overwhelming darkness, and I grasped at it like a drowning woman clutching driftwood. The doppelgangers shrieked, fading back into the shadows as I steadied my breathing. But the reprieve was brief. Suddenly, the largest mirror at the corridor's end shattered violently, and from its depths lunged the clown, grotesque and monstrous. Its cracked porcelain face bore a twisted smile, hollow eyes reflecting every fear I had ever held. I stumbled back, the scream caught in my throat as the nightmare reached for me. Yet, beneath the terror, a fierce determination ignited. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a battle for my soul. I squared my shoulders, meeting the clown's gaze. "I'm not afraid," I whispered, though my voice trembled. The funhouse trembled with the force of my defiance, the illusions flickering uncertainly. Somewhere deep inside, I knew the breaking point had come, the moment where fear could no longer dictate my fate. And as the clown advanced, I prepared to face whatever came next, ready to fight for the truth, for Grandpa, and for myself. The nightmare was far from over, but I was no longer its helpless victim. The mirror maze sprawled before me, a labyrinthine nightmare of gleaming glass and fractured realities. Each pane shimmered with distortions so profound they threatened to unmoor my very sense of self. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of every whispered secret the funhouse had guarded for decades pressing down on my shoulders. Around me, reflections twisted and writhed, not merely images but snarling fragments of impossible worlds. I caught glimpses of myself, some versions confident, others crippled by fear, each mocking, pleading, or screaming silently back at me. The maze was alive. It breathed chaos and despair, a cruel carnival where reality was the main attraction, distorted beyond recognition. A low hum vibrated beneath my feet, growing into a cacophony of discordant echoes as the mirrors began to ripple like disturbed water. Shadows flickered, and suddenly, the grotesque clown appeared, its cracked porcelain face fractured across a dozen reflections, eyes hollow but gleaming with malevolent glee. It grinned, a twisted smile too wide for the human mouth it once belonged to, and its laughter, high-pitched, mocking, filled the maze, reverberating off every mirrored surface. I staggered back, heart hammering, but the maze shifted. Walls bent and folded like paper, reshaping the labyrinth with every breath. The clown's image multiplied, stalking me with predatory grace, its presence a suffocating blanket of terror. I felt the familiar tug of panic clawing at my mind, memories of childhood fears bleeding through the veil of this nightmare. Then, through the fractured glass, a soft glow flickered. Mara appeared ethereal and fragile, her translucent form shimmering like a candle flame in the darkness. Her sorrowful eyes met mine, and though her lips did not move, I heard her voice in my mind. "Trust the reflections that show truth, not fear. Find the edge where realities meet." Her presence steadied me, a fragile beacon in the chaos. I forced my breathing to slow, grounding myself against the torrent of illusions. The maze's distortions pulsed violently, but I pressed onward, guided by Mara's silent counsel. Every step was a battle. The mirrors warped, showing twisted versions of the park rides crumbling, skies bleeding red, laughter turned to screams. My own reflection fractured and multiplied, each shard a distorted echo of my deepest insecurities. I clenched my fists, whispering fierce words to myself, grounding my fractured identity. The clown's laughter swelled into a crescendo, and for a moment, I felt the abyss beckoning. But the flame of determination kindled in me, crackling fiercely. I was no longer just a frightened girl lost in a maze. I was a survivor, armed with the truths gleaned from my grandfather's diary and the hope embodied by Mara's spectral light. As I reached the core of the maze, the boundaries of reality thinned to a fragile veneer. The carnival's grotesque heart beat around me, and I knew the final confrontation loomed close. The funhouse was not just a place, but a prison of souls and fears, and I was poised at the edge, ready to fight for freedom. The mirror's edge awaited, and with it, the answers that could shatter the curse or doom me forever. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. The dance of reflections and nightmares was far from over, but I would face it head on. The funhouse had taken too much already. It was time to reclaim what was lost before the mirrors claimed me to. And so, With resolve burning in my chest, I stepped forward into the shifting shadows, where the past and present collided, and the clown's malevolent grin awaited my defiance.